So let's put together our client presentation for Sushi Club. What is the basic anatomy of a solid client presentation? I'm going to take a few minutes to study some strong examples first. So I'm right here on Behance.com, and I wanted to kind of look through and study lots of different client presentations to see how they do things. And on Behance, you're going to see a lot of portfolio geared presentations, which are going to be a little bit less about the theory and the ideas and the concept, and a little bit more about showing off the brand on practical applications. But I did find a couple that would work really well as client presentations, which, as I said in the last video, has a little bit more background and detail about why you chose things, what was kind of the reasoning behind it, and was kind of showing off some of the research you did too. So in this case, this one's called Accommodation. So you can see they started off with the basic logo. They don't have it on anything. It's pretty simple. They're kind of setting the stage of what this is for. And what I really found interesting is how they broke down the different shapes. And they went into kind of the reasoning why. This is a great example. So what makes up the iconic image? So they have it broken down into 1, 2, 3, and 4. So all those shapes can kind of converge together and kind of creates that icon on number 4. But not only that, they go into what do these shapes mean? And with our Sushi Club, we have, what do the chopsticks symbolize? And that's something we can sit down and write together. So in this example, it says it all started by understanding the brand environment and its audience. We visualize the brand image to be different, attractive, and unique, a symbol that explains itself clearly, but yet in an abstract way and brings positive feeling to the audience. The symbol is designed from 3 core elements that makes up the accommodation iconic image. All elements resemble a unique identity. So 1 is for space and room, so it's kind of representing a room. 2 for a door that swings open, like when you look at blueprints, how it swings open, it kind of makes that door. 3, a smile for a symbol. So you see how they explain their entire concept in just one single little page. It pretty much set the stage. It's not very wordy. It's just wordy enough to get across how this is broken down. So you notice how early it was in the process. We need to show our logo, explain why the logo has what it has in it, whether there's symbols or typographic elements. We need to explain that right away, because everything else will be meaningless if we don't understand why the logo is the way it is. This is taken from my logo client presentation template that I have in a lot of my courses. Just kind of what I did is I showed a couple of things here on this page. As I showed the basic shapes I was playing around with. I have a little sketch image. Then there's this little paragraph that explains, well, why is there the M, and that there's actually the M and the A for the museum and for art. And that was fused together as one icon, and you can see the exploration of that in this presentation. And I'm trying not to be very wordy. I'm trying to be very matter of fact. Here's the concept. This is kind of how we came to the concept. This is why it is the way it is. So just find ways to kind of do very brief explanation of the concept. So going back to the presentation, here's a little bit more descriptions of the brand. So the word mark features a soft yet modern structure with sharp ending tails. We want to highlight the youth in a mature way. So they're even going down to the details of the roundness of the typography. So if you had any kind of special customized typeface, or you did something interesting to the typography of the logo, they even talked about why they made those choices. So they made those choices to have a youthful but still a mature typeface. So they just wanted to add a little youthfulness by rounding the corners. And they explained why that is. I mean, if you kind of if you don't mention that, the client's never going to know those little details unless you bring those little details up. And they even go into what the symbol stands for. This symbol stands for a new and happy experiences. They even go into how the icon was inspired by 2 elements, the smile and space. And so those elements converge together, and they're just going into more detail about where that is, because it's a predominant part of this brand, and they need to make sure you understand that there was a reasoning. That wasn't just a cool looking geometric shapes put together. There is a purpose to everything, and that's how you should have approached. We've gone through this entire process. You should have approached it in a similar manner. Everything has a meaning. and you want to show off what that meaning is, because there's a lot of research that went into what we came up with, and you want to get some credit for that. I mean, this is not random stuff we came up with. There was a meaning and purpose behind it all. And this one even talks about the flexibility of the icon. And I love kind of this line of copy here. It says, no matter where, we can fit anywhere. So it's talking about the flexibility, how we want the logo to look good on black and white. This is explaining that, but it's doing it in a very succinct manner. Very simple, a nice little playful headline that goes with the icon. It's very well done. It's very simple. It's not too wordy. So the next thing you want to talk about is color. So you've talked about the logo system, and we're going in the same order that we did in the course in terms of our presentation, kind of the concept, the logo system, and then we moved on to color, and then we moved on to typography. So it's kind of the same way in a client presentation. You're going to walk through all those steps that you did, but you're going to put it in a more simplified presentation and take out all the details that they don't really have to know. You're just going to present what they really need to know. So why did we choose the colors we chose for Sushi Club? And in this case, they presented this really well. So the primary colors to give us our character and reminds us of who we are and how we feel. So it talks about their primary colors as they named them: pumpkin red, arsenic, and white. We kept it simple to allow our complementary colors to delight a whole visual experience and bring the brand to the next level of communication. So you notice the wordsmithing there. They really tailored this to have a single voice. They're writing in the same style throughout all of this. So in our case with Sushi Club, we can talk about what was our inspiration, and that was the raw colors of raw sushi, of raw fish. And so that can easily be explained in a very simple paragraph like it is here. And it even goes into their secondary colors. And it even goes into the entire color palette. So we have these secondary colors, these primary colors, and they all fuse together to create this entire flexible palette, which of course we did on our own. So we can show off our entire palette, the secondary colors and the primary colors. And so now they're moving from color onto typographic elements and typography. And we already did this with Sushi Club. Is we came up with this entire system. We picked out a typeface, and we picked out what weights and sizes and kerning and leading, and we've already kind of went through that entire process by doing that menu design. So what we could do is we could pair the menu design with some of our typography choices and rules. In this case, they did it really simply, and they just have a couple lines of type on the left, and they label it. So this is Kairos Soft Font Family. And notice how they say meet it. It's kind of more playful in how they're kind of writing in the same voice throughout. I'm noticing that. So our goal in selecting the right typeface is the branding was to highlight a tone and voice and mood. So is all this starting to sound very familiar? So they're to see how quickly they were able to describe why they chose that particular typeface. They also show it in action, so you can show a project that features a lot of variety of different typefaces, your typeface being used, so smaller and larger, perhaps a social media ad. In our case, we can show the menu. In this case, they just show the different weights that are available to use. And they also use a font family that has a lot of different weights to it. So remember how I talked about finding a typeface or a font family that has lots of weights, and this is why. It's very flexible. So you can start to see practical applications. So we talked about logo system, typography, color, and then they start to show it on mock-ups. They start to show it in real practical applications. So in this case, a sticker on a laptop and a flag. And they even broke down the symbol into the grid. So they're it's kind of integrated. There's a lot of there's photos with type. They're kind of telling a story. So think about yourself sitting down next to the client and telling them everything you've done in some kind of order. You're telling them a story. You're writing and crafting a narrative. And that's how you have to think about crafting your client presentation, as a narrative. You're sitting next to them explaining all this. You might actually be presenting it yourself live or over a Zoom call. Or they could be looking at it and you talk through them with it on the phone. So you can kind of see the practical application. So that was a great example. I have another one I'm going to go ahead and present, and we're going to do that next. This is our second client presentation I wanted to kind of show you. I thought it had some very similar characteristics to it. There is a theme to a lot of the ones that I've studied. This one starts off a lot like the other one did, and it presents the logo kind of a very simple way on a solid background. It's not super busy. It just kind of presents it. There it is. There's the identity. There is the logo symbol right there. And they have it presented in a very clean manner, and then they start to go into details as you move about. So in this case, they decided to do a practical application because it is a product. So it's kind of a special little hanger that you can attach. So a part of the biggest part of this brand is the packaging. It is integrated. So the package design is so important that they decided to put that a little bit higher up in the presentation to kind of show you immediately the entire product, because package design is a big part of their job, of the branding process. So you can present colors in all sorts of different ways. You can present them as swatches and a color wheel as the last presentation did, or you can be creative and kind of put them on different backgrounds like you do here. There's so many right ways to present color. You don't have to just have the swatches or circles with colors on them. You could be fun and playful with how you present color like they did in this case. And what I love about this is they go into a little bit of the strategy, which is what makes client presentations different than portfolio presentations, because you can go into a little bit more of these details. So it's talking about that there's a lot of purposes to this hanger. So it's for traveling, it's for home. So they're starting, this was part of their research phase where they tried to figure out, well, what is the 3 goals of the product? What makes it unique? Remember the unique selling proposition we talked about earlier in the course? This is where they're trying to present those findings. And so they even talk about brand voice or brand language in terms of the messaging. So this is kind of them writing that mission statement and going the next level of the brand design process. This talks about brand assets. So brand assets could be the logo, color swatches, icons, backgrounds, textures, all those different things can be brand assets. And they decided to present all of them together in one page, which is a little bit different than the last presentation, as I said. There's no wrong or right way to present everything. So what I like about this is you get to see it all together and all work together. So this is a very interesting, unique way to present it. But as you can see, it's effective as well. You can spend one page on each one of these items, like typography and the logo, or you can put them all together. They are starting to break down the concept here, and they're showing why do they have the angles, why do they use the J, and the J embodies the product because it's the same shape as the product. And once again, this uses the same subtle curved corners to kind of show off the product. It's not like a sharp angle at the end. It says each character features a curved corner just like the product. So they're integrating the product within the logo letter character itself, and they're just talking through that. Because if you didn't say that, you would just think, oh, well, that's the letter J. But if you show the intentionality with everything you choose, it makes it such a better, rich presentation. They even break down in the grid. They show kind of what it looks like on the grid, that these things are not arranged at random. There was a reason why the J breaks down below the baseline, and they're talking about that. And it's meant for legibility. And they even developed an icon set and kind of talks about a little bit why the icon set is the way it is. They're simple and to the point. They're clean, line-based icons. And they even show their entire array of icons. And this is what's cool is they're using their icons. They kind of led into their icons to present their color palette. And then they go into detail about their color palette here. And notice how they named their color palettes. That seems to be a very popular thing to do. Naming those color palettes. It's not just blue or a certain number, because I think colors are more than just a number. It means more when you are naming these things according to maybe some of your brand voice or brand language. And this is showing how colors can be combined, which we'll do a lot more in detail in the brand guidelines manual. But in this case, they're showing how it's such a versatile color palette and can be combined in so many different ways. And what I like about this is I like to show a digital application for every brand presentation I do. Even if they're not an online company, I still like to show off just 1 or 2 little small digital assets. So in our case with Sushi Club, we were able to condense our logo down to a small little icon or app icon. I would love to present that on a little mobile website mock-up, and we could do that a little bit later. Because I think everything is digital, so you have to address that in every brand presentation you do, because it's showing how you're thinking about the future of the company and how it's going to adapt to digital situations. You have to have it, even if the company is not an online company.